What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to part 6 of the Vespa Rally 200 rebuild series. So in the last video you saw that I disassembled the entire front fork. I'm going to be bringing that to powder coat in the next few days. But in this video I wanted to cover actually disassembling the Rally 200 motor. As I mentioned in the previous video, it's actually stuck right now, so I can't rotate. I'm hoping it's just because this fan cover is bent in and it's stopping it from the flywheel from rotating. But if I take this off and it starts rotating again, I'll do a compression test on it and make sure that's good, because I want to save some money on this build, and I'd like to reuse the cylinder if possible. So yeah, if you guys are ready, let's do it. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is drain the case. You guys never done that before. The bottom is a drain bolt, the top one here is a fill bolt. Okay, so I'm gonna crack the top one just so air can get in the case so it can drain faster. And then I'll remove the bottom. Alright, let's see what we got here. Okay. There's no oil in there. Or, well, I'm hoping it's just empty and not full of molasses right now, but either way, I'll clean it all out if that's the case. Alright, let's move on to the other side. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this rear hub first. By removing this cap. After that, it's a cotter pin. Could just cut this thing out, but let's see if I can do it this way. All right. Okay, guys, I went ahead and changed the camera angle because I didn't like the one that was mounted on my chest. You guys are wondering how I'm doing this. I actually have a GoPro mounted on my head. So, yeah, I like this view a lot better. So, all right, so I got the cotter pin out, and now I need to remove the 22mm nut. Little castle nut, looks like that. And you can take the hub off. There's also a spacer behind here, so make sure you don't lose that. All right, put this away. Okay. All right, now it's the dirty work. That's why I have my gloves on. So remove the pads. First thing I'm gonna do is remove these Omega clips. These things are always a pain, especially when they're dirty. Oh, that one's gone. Okay. Alrighty. Remove the spring, the pads will come off. Like I said, this is dirty work, so I have the gloves on. All right, after that, there's little 3 screws here, here, and here to hold the back plate on. To do this, get yourself an impact driver. Makes the job a lot easier because if they're stuck, the impact driver kind of acts like it's hammering them out rather than you just really torquing it with a screwdriver, and you can probably snap the head off. Okay, I got 3 screws out. Just pull the plate off just like that. Put this away. So after that, there's a bunch of, well, actually it's 3 O-rings. Here, and one here. This one still looks pretty good. The other 2 were kind of dried out. Actually, there's 3 O-rings, one back here as well. Yeah, they're falling apart when I'm taking them off, so get all that stuff off, because that way you can actually clean the case properly. All right, next I'm going to pull the clutch cover off and see what we got back there. These are covered in grease. But no, they're 10 millimeters. Let's see here. Clear this out a little bit. Oh. I recommend replacing these screws that held the back plate on because they're probably weakened and you might snap the head off if you go reinstall them, like I did in the Stella video. So yeah, let's go back to removing the clutch cover. Like I said, it's 10 millimeters. 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. This one looks like covered in grease. Can't get the socket over it, but we'll work on that. There you go. Chunk of grease coming off. There you go. Usually you can just pull this off, but you might have to pry it off. Ugh. Especially if it's stuck on there for years. Let me see. Pry this stuff. Make sure you try not to mar the cases. There you go. What fell on the ground? Oh. The plunger fell, but no big deal. We're gonna be replacing that anyway. Okay, I've got the clutch cover off. Let's move on to removing the carb box. The top is usually secured by 2 screws here and here. Those are missing, so we'll have to find some. All right, after that, there's 2 11 millimeter nuts to hold the carb on. So let's see. Looks like this motor has auto lube, so 2 nuts here and here. All right, so that's the carb. I don't really need a pedestal or something. I'm having a hard time showing you guys what's going on, so let me go grab one of those. I totally forgot my engine stand actually pivots, so I pivoted the engine instead. All right, so now that I have the carb off, just remove this gasket, and you'll see a flathead screw right there, and that's what holds the carb box onto the engine. So remove that flathead and the carb box will come right off. Oop. Just like that. Dried up gasket underneath it. It's all trash. Make sure you don't lose the screw here. Alright. Alright, so okay. There's the auto lube drive right here. Alright, this side is pretty much done. Let me move on to the other side. Okay, now on to the other side. First thing I'm gonna do is remove the shroud. It's just this little 8 millimeter bolt. And then this flathead, it's on the top here, right there. Okay. Yeah, we might need the freaking impact driver for this as well. Let's try to get a little more. Nope. Okay. Alright, let's try again. I got my impact driver with the flathead attachment. Like I said, it's kind of like you're hammering the bolt off. See how much easier it is when you just hammer it and undo at the same time. So yeah, once I got that, oh, the bottom one's still attached. All right, so 3 screws that hold this on. All right, now let's move on to the fan cover. Fan cover is 1, 2, 3. That one's already removed, so 3 screws that hold it on. 3 flat heads. If you're wondering where I got these neat little trays, I think I got them from Harbor Freight. And the actual engine table is from Eastwood. So I built so many motors. I really need this thing to do so, just so I can keep track of all the little parts. So yeah, if you have a whole fleet that you have to rebuild, it's a good idea to get something like this. All right, so got the fan cover off and the little shifter box cover as well. And unfortunately, this thing's still locked up. So that sucks. Okay, I'm gonna pull the cylinder off now and see what's going on back there. All right, let me get the flywheel off first before I pull the cylinder. This flywheel looks to be intact, so I don't want to damage it if I have to kind of pound this thing off. But yeah, on the Femsatronic ignition Rally 200s, you don't need a removable tool. You see a little circlip in there? When you actually start undoing this nut, it actually pushes the circlip and at the same time pushes the flywheel out. So let me go grab the socket for this. I believe it's a 17. And we'll get that off real quick. All right, I got my 17mm socket. We're just gonna go ahead and lightly tap this. Hopefully it'll come right off. You don't want to do it too fast because sometimes the circlip will pop right out. So just slow little bursts, or use a ratchet. All right, so that's the flywheel. Like I mentioned, this thing has a Femsatronic ignition, which we're not going to reuse because apparently they suck. So like I mentioned in the previous video, I'm a high-speed, low-drag kind of guy, and you can't do that when you're broken down. So yeah, we're gonna upgrade it to a SIP ignition like I do with all my bikes, and then yeah, that way I can keep the reliability. All right, so let's remove the stator. I believe it's 3 of these screws, and then you can get that out. So let me go grab my Phillips impact socket so you can get these off easily as well. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. So little impact sockets that have the Phillips heads on there to get these off easily, because I want to say 9 out of 10 times when you try to get these off, you strip the heads. So this will make it a little easier. Like that. That's 1, 2, all right, that's that. Oh, okay. I'm actually taking one of these out before, so I guess this has to come apart. Well, that's all rotten anyway, so I'll probably just break that off. We're not going to need it anyway, so. All right, let's get the wire through the case, or the wires through the case. What's that? Pull these through. Oh, see, I feel the wires coming apart just by yanking on it, so those wires are definitely rotten. All right. I'm sure some old timer somewhere would want this thing because they want to keep it original, but yeah, I'll save that anyway. All right, we got the stator removed. This thing looks a little different from what I'm used to because of the Femsatronic ignition. So I will probably have to replace the cranks as I'm getting away with that, or going away from it. But the engine is still locked up, so let me go on the other side and remove the clutch, and then we'll take the cylinder off. So I'm on the other side now. Reposition the motor so you can see better, and we'll just remove this clutch real quick. Need a smaller screwdriver. this guy here. Pretty much you just push down this little clip here, and then it releases this, or pushes down this little tab that kind of catches on the lip of the clutch. So that's how you get that out. Put this over here somewhere. All right, so the clutch itself has a little locking collar that you can hammer down the little teeth into the little clutch nut. So that's how it locks in place. So I bent that little tooth out. Now I can get my clutch removal tool to take that off. Actually spent some time in organizing all my Vespa Lambretta tools. So now I can actually find them easier. So, all right, here's the clutch nut removal tool. See how it has teeth here? It goes into those little grooves in the nut. It goes on like that. And I believe it's a 17mm socket. Yep. Use the impact gun to remove it. Just like that. See how the nut's kind of like a castle? This kind of works like this. Like that. Alright, so get yourself one of these tools if you don't have one. Alright, so after that, the clutch should just pop out. Yep, like that. Okay. Like I mentioned, this little collar here. I'll show you what that looks like. So, this little collar here. See how it has little teeth? So when this is in there like that and tightened, you bend these teeth into where the notches are in the nut. That's how it locks it in place. All right, so I'm going to be replacing both these parts with new stuff anyway. So we can put this aside for now. But yeah, like I said, you remove the clutch. It looks like this. I will probably be upgrading this to a Cosa clutch because I love the way they feel over the stock clutches. But yeah, put that away. All right, since this has auto lube, there's a couple little loose parts that you have to remove. You know what? I'll leave that in for now. Yeah, I'll leave that in for now. All right, now let's finally remove the cylinder and see what we got going on. Okay, so let's go into removing the cylinder. 13mm nuts on the top. Hopefully it's not seized in the cylinder. That's gonna be fun, just taking this thing off, if that's the case. So do little by little on each nut. That way I don't risk warping the head. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, well, I'm thinking the cylinder is just seized, so maybe I'll spray some lube in here and see if it soaks through. Hopefully it'll release it. So, let me, yeah, let me reposition the motor, and then we'll see if we can separate it that way, or loosen it up that way. Alright, see, I dropped the rear of the motor. So now I can spray some penetrating fluid into the cylinder and see what happens. I'm gonna let it soak in a little bit. See if it loosens up. Hopefully it does. Alright, so as you can see, I put the clutch back in. I just pushed it back in there. That way I can use the kickstart to see if it can free up the cylinder. And does not appear so. Alright. Okay. Let me see here. Alright, I'm gonna let it soak for a little while longer and I'll come back to it. Alright, I let it soak for a little while, it's still not doing anything, so I'm gonna have to carefully pry the cylinder off. I'm thinking it's just been sitting so long, it's just frozen up, so I'm gonna give it a little nudge, see if it'll free up. See, I'm whacking it with a plastic hammer, and I'm hitting it where the exhaust port is. Try not to hit the fins, because you will break those off. So, I'm lightly prying it, see if I can free it up a little bit, and hopefully it'll give way and come off. Feels like it is moving, just Let me put the nut back on the crank and see if I can free it up that way. Alright, I've got the nut back on the crank. See if I can loosen it up that way. I doubt it though. This thing is stuck. Oh, I feel it coming. Oh, there you go. Okay. A little bit of progress. The crank seems to be okay. Let me see here. All right, let me, I don't want to do this, but yeah, let me pry right here carefully. Mar up the case. Hopefully you can get it off somehow. Nah. Let me spray some penetrating fluid in there. Just get it all nice and soaked. Maybe that'll help. It is moving. Well, the crank is. The cylinder is not. So maybe I will. Let's see. You know what? I'm gonna tap on the cylinder a little bit. See if I can free that up. Alright, I'm going to see if I can tap on the piston a little bit. See if it'll free it up. I got a little plastic block here and a plastic hammer. Just light taps. See if that does anything. Whoops. Clutch pie came out. Yep. I'll use this again. Oh, whoa, whoa. Yeah, I can feel those bearings are probably shot. Alright. It's gonna need everything. Alright, here's what it is. want to get this off without damaging the case, so let me work on that. So now I'm going to hit the cylinder. Nah, that is stuck. Okay. All right, I'm gonna let it sit for a good half hour, and then I'll come back to it and see what happens. I really don't want to damage anything. I want to keep this if it's good. So that's why I don't want to keep beating on it too much. All right, we'll be back in about an hour. All right, it's been sitting for a while and it's still stuck. So I'm gonna do it the hard way, and that is to remove the studs. And then I'll be able to separate the case, and then we'll remove the entire crank and the cylinder all together. And then after that, I can probably stick this on the vise and kind of beat this cylinder, the piston out of it. Yeah, it sucks, but we'll see if we can still reuse this. Maybe I'll hone it and go with a 1/over piston or something. But then again, after you do all that, it's probably the same price as buying a new cylinder. So yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, this is stuff we run into when these bikes sit for 30 years. So yeah, all right, let's get these studs off first and go from there. Never removed the stud before. What you're gonna need is either 2 nuts, just like this, or I have the stud remover. I think I got these from Casa Lambretta, I'm not sure, but yeah, let's put the nut on first. And then we'll thread on the stud remover. Throw that guy on until it stops. And after that, you want to back the nut out until it locks with the stud remover. Like that. So I'll go ahead and do all these. You guys can watch in time lapse. All right, you see I got all the studs removed. So now either I can, yeah, I'd rather not twist the crank. Yeah. Let me take the case half off and then we'll remove the entire thing. Okay. All right, if you've never separated a case half before, all you need to do is remove all the nuts. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and the 12th one is actually on the other side. All right, so these are 11 millimeters. Alright, I forgot to mention that you do have to remove the selector box in order to separate the cases, and that's by removing the 2 11 millimeter nuts holding it on and shifting the arm all the way through 4th gear to get it off. All right, so now I've got the all the nuts removed from the case. I should be able to separate this thing. Sometimes all you gotta do is just gotta tap on the other side here with a rubber hammer or a rubber mallet, and it should come apart. But if not, I do have the case separator. So yeah, we'll see if I need that. All right. right, I put the flywheel bolt nut back on and remove that. Oof, okay. Yeah, it's a little crusty in here. Yeah, it's all rusted out. Dang, okay. All right, well, I can try to clean it up and see what happens, but yeah, it looks like I'm gonna have to replace everything. Well, cylinder and the crank. Crank I was gonna do anyway because it's a Femsatronic crank, but the cylinder I was trying to keep, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, it looks pretty rusty in there. I'll just get a new one. All right, it is what it is. Ooh, that's crusty. All right, cool. Besides that, this part is actually really clean, surprisingly. All right. Okay, now I'm going to see if I can tap the crank out from the other end. All right, let's set this down real quick. Down here. All right, before I start tapping on the crank, I'll remove the oil pump drive gear. To the side. We'll see if I can get the crank out along with the cylinder at the same time. Yeah, nope, that's not moving. All right, I'm gonna get the tool. So how this tool works is that I see the thumb screws I put in are actually bolted to the case where the clutch cover bolts on. And then this bolt here actually drives the crank out when you tighten it. So you'll see that the entire thing is going to move like that. Usually the cylinder is not stuck to it when I remove this, but yeah, this thing is, the crank actually might be okay. All right, so let's continue disassembling the case entirely so I can actually put in the parts washer to clean it all up. So I'm gonna remove the rest of the oil pump drive parts. I don't have the right snap ring pliers for this, but that's okay. We'll make it work. Of course, I'll lose it. Okay, well that sucks. That's all right. This little gear comes off the top, and then you got the actual drive. There's two washers, one on this side and one on the other side. Make sure you get those out. Washer on the other side seems to be missing, so we'll have to get another one. Alright, I have a feeling that circlip fell inside the motor, so we're going to go ahead and continue removing the parts. Next up, I'll pull the transmission out. Usually I just lightly tap on this side with a plastic hammer. It pops right out like that. And looks like I found that clip. It's inside the engine. Alright, cool. Put that back where it's supposed to be. Alright, looks good. Put this guy down here. I mean, the engine actually doesn't look bad. I mean, Usually it's full of molasses, but I guess whoever owned this drained it at one point. They may have actually rebuilt this motor as well, but let me vacuum up all this rust and crud, and then I'll remove the cush drive. Alright, I've got it sort of cleaned up. Next I'm going to remove the cush drive. The cush drive is actually held on by this nut on this side, and then this nut is usually held in place by these two little locking tabs. This one's bent out of the way already. This one was still bent in, so I just bent it out. And now you should be able to remove that nut. It's actually a 17. I'm going to need a extension. Once you get the nut out, it's a washer and a little locking tab thing. Looks like this. You can either replace these or you can reuse it if yours is not all worn out. But I'll leave this alone for now. We'll figure out what we want to do with it. Get this nut off real quick. So once you get that nut out, turn the engine around to the other side. When you tap on this shaft here, you'll see a bunch of needle bearings appear. So I'm going to tap it out. See that? See those needle bearings right there? Make sure you catch all of them. Okay. And I'm probably going to replace these with new ones, but leave those there. After that, cush drive comes out. This thing looks original, so usually when you shake it around, you hear it rattling inside, you rebuild it. But since it's old, I'll probably rebuild it anyway. So yeah, that's how that works. I'll probably replace that bearing in there as well. So I'll show you how to do that when we actually go to rebuild this thing. Got pretty much everything off. It's time to remove the bearings. So the bearing on the inside here is covered by a oil seal. You're gonna remove that first. All right. And then there's a big snap ring right here. Remove that, and you have to extract the bearing from that side inward. All right, because on the other side, there's these little locking tabs with nuts, and they don't make these anymore, or not that I know of, because I've never seen them for sale. So I'm gonna leave these alone. I'm gonna extract the bearing from the other side. That way these are intact. And then when I go to reinstall, you know, I'm not messing with these. You know, I kind of just knock the bearing back in, and then we'll put the circlip back on. So since I have the motor turned on this side, I'll go ahead and remove this oil seal on this side for the output shaft, or the lay shaft. So yeah, these things are really old. We'll be replacing those as well. So the bearing for the output shaft, or the lay shaft, is also held in by a circlip. So remove that, and I have a tool to drift it out. Like I said, I have a tool to drift that hub bearing out. Great, I can't find it. Oh, there it is. It's camouflaged. All right. So first thing I'm gonna do is remove the snap ring. I know I keep calling it a circlip, but it's a snap ring, I believe, because it's really big. And these are snap ring pliers. Okay, now to drift it out, like I said, I have a special tool actually made just for this. It kind of fits perfectly in the case, and only catches the outside lip of that bearing. So I should be able to just tap this out real quick. Sometimes I can't. Oh, there goes that bearing. All right. This bearing might still be good, but I'll replace it anyway. Okay, now let's move on to removing the crank bearing. So first thing I'm gonna do is remove this giant snap ring. And of course it's stuck. Okay, let's try again. Well, that's stuck. Let me see if I can get some tools to knock that loose and out of the groove. Alright, got a nice little punch here. See if we can knock this thing out of the groove. Bottom one seems to start moving. Spray some oil in there. Alright, let's try again. I'm feeling my snap ring pliers from Harbor Freight are starting to get a little tired. I may have to go get a new set, but yeah, or we'll see if they can warranty them. Yeah, they're not working anymore. Huh. Okay, let me get some other snap ring pliers. Okay, so I've got my Snap-on snap ring pliers. These should work. And I hope they work. The amount of money I pay for these things. Yeah, they work, but snap ring is still stuck in the groove. So I am thinking that there's too much pressure from those clips on the other side. Let me see if I can hit this with the hammer and see if I can relieve some of the pressure on this side of the snap ring before I go and remove it. All right. See if that helps. If not, then I'll have to loosen the nuts on the other side with those little clips. Starting to come out, but not quite there yet. All right, I got a little socket here. I'm just going to tap that bearing. Relieve pressure on the snap ring. See if that'll come out like that. Yeah, nope, we're almost there, but not quite. Yeah, I'll tap it a little more, see what happens. Yeah, let me loosen the nuts on the other side. I was trying not to mess with them, but we have no choice. It's stuck, and I really don't want to keep beating on the case. That's how things start cracking. So, all right, like I said, over here on this side, you got two little metal locking tabs and two nuts. So I'm going to bend those tabs out so I can actually loosen the nut. Oops. Try not to bend these too much so I can reuse them like that. Okay. All right, see if I got these little locking tabs bent out so I can actually get a socket in there to loosen those nuts. So I'm just gonna loosen them a little bit, relieve pressure off these two paws that push into the bearing to keep it in place. So, hope you guys are following me, because right now I can't push the bearing inward more to relieve the stress that's on the snap ring. So since I've loosened those two nuts, I should be able to tap this bearing. It should move a little bit to relieve the stress on that snap ring, so I can easily remove it. So give it another little tap. All right. See what I'm talking about? So yeah, it's a little bit of a a little tricky, but yeah, just think about why things are stuck before you go and just start wailing on it. All right, so now that I have that out, I'm gonna extract the bearing with my bearing extractor. It goes like this. That guy goes like that. That goes here. This pin here goes in, and then the bolt goes on. When you tighten the bolt, it pushes that pin in. And then on this side, it spreads those arms out to grab onto the bearing. After that, you can tighten this nut here, and it'll start pulling the bearing out. You can go and wail on it, but I really don't like doing that, especially on cast aluminum. You never know what can happen, where some stress marks are, and then you could crack it. So yeah, try to use the right tools to do this job. That way you don't run into any major problems like breaking a case or whatever. All right, let's find my 17mm socket. I had it over here somewhere. Don't know where it went. Oh, here it is. Okay. Oop. Let me hold on to the stem here before I tighten it. Okay. Turn it back. Okay, see how these arms are, these little fingers have been spread out, so it actually grabs on the inside of the bearing. And so on this side, I'm going to hold the stem and turn the nut, and then it'll extract the bearing.
A few moments later.
Okay, I've got the crank bearing removed. All right, so this side of the case is completely stripped down. I'm gonna stick it in the parts washer and clean it all up, and then I will probably stick it in my blast cabinet to polish it, make it look brand new. Actually, the rear brake arm is still in place, so let me remove that as well, and then this thing will go into the parts washer. All right, so I've got the rear brake arm here. The only thing that's holding this thing in place is the cotter pin. So bend the little arms out like that, both sides. Okay. That's that. The cotter pin's out. Put this over here. And after that, you should be able to just pull the little brake cam out. Now, you should do this because there's two O-rings, or maybe one O-ring. Let me see. Yeah, one O-ring. Sorry, two O-rings. One right here that have to be replaced when you do the rebuild. Well, you don't have to replace them, but you might as well since you've gone this far. But yeah, remove that, and then the little brake arm will come off just like this, and a little return spring. So make sure you keep that stuff. And yes, after that, the case is completely stripped down and ready for cleaning. All right, that's it for this half. There's like little things like this that I'm going to remove, but that's not a big deal. All right, let's strip the other case half, and then yeah, we should be good. Now onto the other case half. First thing I'm going to do is remove the kickstart lever. It's a 13mm nut. After that, tap on the bolt. Good to go. You should be able to just wiggle this off, but sometimes it's rusted on. All right, put this back together so you don't lose this stuff. All right, set that aside. All right, so now I'm going to remove the kickstart spring. So what you need to do is rotate the spring so this little part comes out of the little notch in the little kickstart. I think that's what I call a quadrant or something. Yeah, so we'll do that. Just a big pair of pliers should do it. Kill yourself. So I see this little stem here. It goes in that little hole down there, and then we go to reinstall it. Make sure it's all the way back, twist it over, and then back into that notch. Nice and easy. So after that, you should be able to push this out. That's that. Now there is an O-ring inside there that has to be replaced. Okay, so make sure you don't miss that. All right, so over here, you know what? I'm not sure how to remove that. Let me see if I have a bearing extractor for this bearing here to remove that. I don't remember removing that before though, but yeah, let's do that. Oh, actually, before I do that, you can remove the oil seal on this side, fly side seal. Of course, it's stuck. Turn it around. Push it out. Okay, seals out. Let me see how I can remove that bearing. Okay, so I'm going to try to use my blind bearing puller again on this this bearing here. So I got a different stem. This one's got a bigger end here. So I'll put that in there. Collar, pin, nope, nut. Okay. I'm probably going to ruin this bearing, but I don't care. I'm going to put a new one in there anyway, so I just want to get it out. Oh, I can't use that. It's too big. Okay. Find another combo. Okay. All right, you see that it's grabbed onto the bearing. Now we will slowly extract it.
A few moments later.
Okay, that bearing is extracted. You can see there. All right, so one more thing. I'm gonna remove these little rubber buffers here for the kickstart quadrant. Usually these things are torn up or worn out, but I'm thinking this engine was rebuilt between 1975 and now, because usually these things are chewed up or worn out. All right, so one last thing I almost forgot is that you need to remove the outer race for this fly side bearing on the crank. I don't have a puller for this, so what I usually do is cut out a little piece of flat stock and just kind of place it in between there, and I'll weld it in place. Once I do that, when you actually weld it, it actually pulls the bearing closer together, and then usually it just falls right out. So I'm actually at work right now. We have a nice TIG setup here, the Miller version 180. It's not as nice as my CK unit, but it does the job. So, all right, we'll get this thing welded in, and this race should just fall right out. Alright, see, I've got my flat stock welded in there, but that bearing might be rusted onto the case, so I might have to tap it a little bit. So I'll wait till it cools down a little bit, and then I'll give it a little tap, and it should come right out. Alright, I let it cool down a little bit. I put a little socket on top here, just so I don't actually hit the case. Should be able to just tap this out. Alright, there it is. The fly side bearing race removed. This method also works for the small frames, the two-piece bearing on the fly side. So I know you need a welder, but it's the safest way to do it without damaging the case. Alright, there you have it. A completely stripped down Rally 200 engine. Alright, like I mentioned earlier, I will be putting this in my parts washer and cleaning up all the grease, and then into the blast cabinet to polish it. So it'll probably look completely different in the next video. So yeah. Well guys, now I have an idea of what I need to order, and in the next video we may start putting this thing back together. So yeah, if you guys have liked the video so far, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I will catch y'all next time.